The year is 793. On a battlefield in the eastern Baltic, a Viking warrior named Ragnar Lothbrok and his brother Rollo cut down enemy after enemy. When the fighting ends and the bodies are stripped of anything valuable, Ragnar sails home to Scandinavia, back to his farm and his family. Ragnar is married to a woman named Lagertha, and they have 2 children. Their daughter is Gyda, and their son is Bjorn. That day, Ragnar announces that Bjorn is finally old enough to start learning how to raid. Lagertha is not thrilled about it, but she knows the truth. This world does not let boys stay boys for long, and Bjorn needs to be ready for the life waiting for him. The next morning, Ragnar takes Bjorn on the walk toward the hall of their chieftain, a man named Earl Haraldsson. Along the way, Ragnar tells his son stories about his own battles and the men he has killed, and he makes it clear that he expects Bjorn to follow the same path. Back at the farm, Lagertha is teaching Gyda how to weave when 2 men show up looking for trouble. Lagertha sends Gyda inside, grabs a sword, and turns on both of them. And this is where we learn something important about her. She fights like a warrior, and she puts both men down without much effort at all. At the Great Hall, Rollo greets his nephew with real warmth, and the 3 of them drink together like family. Once Bjorn is sent off to sleep, Ragnar and Rollo start talking about the raiding season. Ragnar admits he is tired of sailing east. Every year it is the same rivers, the same poor villages, the same small rewards. He wants to go west instead, because he is convinced there is a land out there filled with more treasure than any of them have ever seen. Rollo thinks his brother is chasing a dream. Nobody sails west. Crossing the open ocean with no coast to follow is a good way to die. So Ragnar shows him something. He pulls out a sun compass he got from a wanderer and explains how it works. Then he shows him a sunstone that can find the sun even when the sky is completely covered. In other words, Ragnar has already solved the problem. The journey west is not a dream anymore. It is a plan. This is Vikings. Soon after, a public gathering is held at Kattegat. Earl Haraldsson passes judgment on men who have wronged him, and the sentences are carried out the next morning.
You have to.
Bjorn has to stand there and watch the crowd stone the condemned to death. It is his first real look at how power works in this world, and it clearly shakes him.
It's his only hope of reaching Valhalla.
And I curse him.
That night, because he is the son of one of Haraldsson's better-known men, Bjorn is welcomed at the feast and treated well. During the meal, Ragnar asks Haraldsson where the raids will go this year. The answer is exactly what he expected: east again. Ragnar pushes back in front of everyone and starts talking about the rich lands to the west. Haraldsson shuts him down. He is the Earl. The decisions are his, and he is not gambling his ships and his men on a story. Later, in private, Haraldsson pulls Ragnar aside and warns him never to bring up the west again. Ragnar embarrassed him in front of the whole hall, and Haraldsson does not forget things like that. So Ragnar makes his choice. He is going west anyway, and Haraldsson is not going to know about it. First, he takes Bjorn to see a blind seer to ask about the future. The seer tells him that great things are waiting for both father and son. Then Ragnar brings Bjorn to meet a boat builder named Floki, a strange, wild, brilliant man who has already been quietly working on Ragnar's plan for months. Floki shows off the ship he is building and promises it can survive any water on Earth. Ragnar loves it. Back home, Ragnar and Rollo go over the plan again. Rollo agrees to come, but he sets a condition. He will not be led. He wants to be treated as an equal, not as his brother's follower. Ragnar accepts. Now they just need a crew. Floki finishes the ship and the test sail goes perfectly. The thing is fast, strong, and steady. With the ship ready, Ragnar and Rollo go to meet a group of men led by Eric Martine, men who already resent Haraldsson and his rule. Ragnar lays out the whole plan. They sail west, they take everything they find, and there is no captain and no earl. Every man on that ship has the same rank and the same share of the treasure. That offer is impossible to refuse, and the crew signs on, but someone overhears the meeting and runs straight to Haraldsson to sell the information. Haraldsson listens, takes the news, and then has the informant killed anyway. That is the kind of man he is. At home, Lagertha tells Ragnar she is coming west with him. Ragnar refuses because if the voyage fails, someone has to raise Bjorn and Gyda. Lagertha is tired of being talked to like she is fragile, so she settles the argument by beating him up.
Not good enough for you? So angry with you!
Bjorn has to physically pull them apart. Finally, the day arrives. The crew loads the supplies. But one man, Canute, never shows up. They perform a ritual for their gods, and then they push off into the most reckless voyage in Viking history. As for Canute, he never intended to sail. He goes straight to Haraldsson and reports that Ragnar has already left. Haraldsson is not even angry. He is amused. As far as he is concerned, there is no land to the west, and Ragnar and his crew are already dead men rowing. Out on the open sea, that almost comes true. A brutal storm hits, and the crew has to fight for hours just to keep the ship upright. Floki screams encouragement at all of them, absolutely certain the gods want them to live, and somehow they make it through. Then they hear birds. Land. They come ashore near an isolated monastery, and the monks who see the ship coming are terrified because nobody in England has ever seen anything like this before. Ragnar and his men storm the monastery, kill anyone who resists, and start stripping the place of gold, silver, and jewels. While searching, Ragnar hears a noise behind a table. Hiding underneath is a young monk. Ragnar starts questioning him, and the monk answers in Ragnar's own language, which stops him cold. The monk's name is Athelstan. He explains that he has traveled and studied, and he begs for his life. Rollo moves in to kill him. Ragnar stops him. He has decided that a man who speaks their language and knows the Western world is worth more alive. They load the plunder, take a few monks as slaves, and sail home. Kattegat welcomes them like heroes. They have not just come back alive, they have come back rich, with treasure nobody has ever seen and captives ready to be sold. Ragnar goes to Haraldsson to show him the haul and tells him it was easy, and then he asks for more ships so they can hit the west properly. Haraldsson refuses. Worse, he claims the entire haul for himself, because by law, everything raided belongs to the Earl. As a gesture of generosity, he tells Ragnar to pick one single item from the pile. Ragnar is furious, but he keeps his face still. He does not pick gold. He does not pick silver. He points at Athelstan and takes the monk as his slave. Because Ragnar already knows the truth. The treasure will be spent, but the man who knows the Western world is the key to everything that comes next. Outside, Rollo confronts him, angry at what just happened. Ragnar explains that he understood exactly what Haraldsson was doing and refused to walk into the trap. Then Rollo admits that he quietly pocketed some of the jewelry before it was handed over. Ragnar warns him to be careful, because a mistake like that could get them both killed. Ragnar goes home and tells his family the raid worked. Haraldsson took the loot, but Ragnar was right about everything. The West is real, and it is rich. Then he introduces Athelstan. Athelstan is a devout monk who has spent his whole life inside a monastery, and Viking life is a shock to him. Ragnar even invites him to join him and Lagertha in their bed, which Athelstan immediately and awkwardly declines. But apart from that, Ragnar treats him well. He drinks with him, talks with him, and slowly pulls information out of him about England. He also has Athelstan teach him the Western language. Armed with all that, Ragnar goes back to Haraldsson and asks to sail west again. Haraldsson resists at first, but Ragnar keeps pushing, and eventually the Earl gives in. There is one condition. Knut, Haraldsson's trusted man, sails with them. Ragnar agrees without hesitating. This time, Lagertha is coming too. Athelstan, the slave, is left in charge of the children, which shows just how much Ragnar has come to trust him. Before they leave, Rollo makes a point of roughing Knut up, just to remind him who he should be loyal to, and he promises to kill him if he sides with Haraldsson. They cross the sea and land in the kingdom of Northumbria. Almost immediately, a patrol of royal guards finds them and asks what they want. Ragnar claims they are traitors. The guards invite them to come and meet the king. Rollo and the others can smell a trap. Floki settles it by ripping a necklace off one of the soldiers, and the fight starts. The Vikings win easily, but one soldier escapes, which is going to cost them. They keep another one alive as a guide and march inland until they see a large town in the distance. The escaped soldier reaches King Ali and reports everything, and another man tells the king that a monastery has already been sacked. Ale is furious. Ragnar does not waste time. His men throw ropes over the town walls and climb. Inside, they hear the sound of a church service, and they walk in and start killing. Then they split up to loot everything they can find. And here we see the uglier side of these raids. Knut corners a woman and starts assaulting her. Lagertha sees it and stops him, but Knut fights back, and then he tries to force himself on her instead. It is the last mistake he ever makes. Lagertha kills him on the spot. With the loot gathered, the Vikings head back to the shore, where an English force is already waiting. They form a shield wall and break the soldiers anyway, though Ragnar loses one of his own men in the fight. The surviving English soldiers report back to King Ella. They cannot tell him much, only that these men are unbelievably strong and completely unafraid of dying, and that they kept hearing one name over and over: Ragnar. Back in Scandinavia, Bjorn gets tired of waiting at the farm and decides to go to Kattegat to meet his parents when they return. Athelstan warns him that it is dangerous, but Bjorn is exactly as stubborn as his father. That night, Athelstan lies awake questioning everything. He never hurt anyone. He never even touched a woman. So why is God letting him rot as a slave among killers? His faith is already starting to crack, and he agrees to go to Kattegat with Bjorn and Gyda. Ragnar and his crew come home loaded with plunder, and the town celebrates. Even Haraldsson admits that Ragnar is a great warrior. Then he notices Knut is missing and asks where he is. Ragnar tells him the truth. He says Knut tried to rape his wife, so he killed him. Haraldsson has been waiting for a reason like this. He immediately has Ragnar arrested and dragged away in ropes. Then he goes to work on Rollo. In private, Haraldsson tells Rollo that he is worried about how powerful Ragnar is becoming, and he offers Rollo everything he has ever wanted: status, wealth, even his own daughter Thiri as a wife. When Bjorn, Gyda, and Athelstan arrive in Kattegat, they find Ragnar bound and about to be judged. Lagertha defends him, but her word means nothing here. Haraldsson calls Rollo forward, confident that Rollo will testify that Ragnar murdered Knut in cold blood. Rollo tells the truth instead. He explains exactly what Knut did, and by Viking law that makes the killing lawful. Haraldsson is left with nothing to say, and Ragnar walks free. The crew celebrates, and Ragnar thanks Athelstan for taking care of his children. But the party does not last. Haraldsson's men attack, stab one of Ragnar's crew, and kill him before they are driven off. Ragnar now understands that this will not stop until one of them is dead. Haraldsson visits the seer and asks about his future. The seer tells him that conflict is coming and that his position is in serious danger, which only makes him more paranoid. Ragnar goes out hunting alone to clear his head. That is exactly when Haraldsson's men attack his village. Lagertha grabs a weapon and puts an axe in Athelstan's hands. Out in the forest, Ragnar senses that something is wrong and rushes home to find his village burning. He kills the attackers he can reach, but he takes a serious wound doing it. He gets to his family and tells them to run for the boat at the lake. Then Haraldsson arrives. Ragnar walks out to meet him, wounded, and admits what he did. But Ragnar being Ragnar, the moment Haraldsson relaxes, he strikes and runs.
After him!
A long chase through the forest ends with Ragnar cornered at the edge of a cliff. He jumps. And down below, Lagertha is waiting in the boat, and Athelstan dives in and pulls him out. They escape. Ragnar is badly hurt, so Bjorn takes him to Floki. Seeing his friend that close to death, Floki panics and starts barking orders, gathering everything he needs to keep Ragnar alive. Meanwhile, Haraldsson is not convinced that Ragnar is dead, so he moves to strengthen his position. He marries his daughter Thiri off to a Swedish king named Bjarni. His wife Siggy is disgusted. She accuses him of selling their daughter's happiness to feed his obsession with power. Haraldsson tells her it is the right decision for the glory of their family. Siggy does not forget it. Winter closes in. Ragnar is slowly healing and hiding when an old friend named Thorstein arrives, and Floki welcomes him. Once everyone else is asleep, Thorstein asks what the plan is now that Haraldsson has seized every ship they own. Ragnar answers calmly. When he heals, Floki builds him a new ship, and they start again from nothing. At Thiri's wedding, Haraldsson gets a surprise. Rollo walks in. He says he wants to come back and serve Haraldsson, and he claims that Ragnar is dead. Haraldson does not believe a word of it. When the feast ends, Siggy quietly warns Rollo to leave immediately because her husband intends to kill him. It is already too late. Haraldson's men jump Rollo the moment he steps outside, beat him down and drag him away. Haraldsson tortures him for days trying to find out where Ragnar is hiding. Rollo does not break. Thorstein brings the news to Ragnar. He got it directly from Siggy, who has now decided to betray the husband she has slept beside for decades. Ragnar is furious that his brother is being tortured, and he makes his move. He sends Floki to Kattegat to deliver a challenge. Ragnar wants single combat, one-on-one, to the death. Haraldsson hears it and immediately remembers the seer's warning. But he is the Earl. He cannot refuse a public challenge without losing everything, so he accepts. Lagertha begs Ragnar to walk away. He is still injured, he is nowhere near full strength, and this fight could kill him. Ragnar tells her he is going to win. Haraldsson, meanwhile, is quietly falling apart. He tells Siggy that Ragnar has the same fire he had when he was young, and then he starts praying to his gods for help. The day comes. Ragnar walks into the ring on unsteady legs in front of the entire town, and the two men fight. The wound slows Ragnar badly, and Haraldsson dominates the early exchanges. But Ragnar refuses to go down, and eventually he breaks through and kills the Earl. One of Haraldsson's loyalists tries to have Ragnar cut down anyway, and Rollo buries an axe in him. And in the middle of the chaos, Siggy walks up to Bjarni, the man her husband sold their daughter to, and stabs him herself. Then Siggy does something nobody expects. She publicly proclaims Ragnar the new Earl. The town roars for him. Ragnar is brought into the hall and takes the throne, and one old veteran swears he will fight and die at Ragnar's side for the rest of his life. Ragnar makes his first announcement as Earl. Next summer, they sail west again, and this time with a real fleet. Athelstan watches the town prepare Haraldsson's funeral and does not understand why the man who killed him is paying for it. Ragnar explains that Haraldsson was a great man, and that respect is owed to a worthy enemy. The funeral is led by a figure they call the Angel of Death, and one of Haraldsson's slave women volunteers to die and go with him. Siggy does not. That night, Lagertha tells Ragnar she is pregnant again. Ragnar could not be happier. Time passes, and Ragnar returns to the west with a fleet. When word reaches King Ele that Ragnar has landed, the soldier delivering the report is shaking with fear. Ele is disgusted by it, so he drags the man to a pit and throws him in. The pit is full of snakes. Remember this. Ele then orders his forces to prepare and asks his brother Ethelwulf to help lead the army. The Vikings make camp on the outskirts of Northumbria and dig in. Ethelwulf scouts ahead and finds their camp. One of his men wants to attack immediately, but Ethelwulf decides to set up camp nearby and watch them first, waiting for the right moment. That is a mistake. Ragnar already knows they are there. That night, the Vikings hit the English camp and slaughter them in their sleep. Ethelwulf is taken alive as a prisoner, and Ragnar's men walk away with a pile of English swords made of far better steel than their own. When Ele learns his brother has been captured, he calls in every noble in Northumbria. They argue for hours until someone points out the obvious. These men are here for profit, so pay them. Give them money and they will leave, and no more Englishmen have to die. The nobles call the idea shameful. Ele takes it anyway because he knows exactly what he is dealing with, and this is the core of why the Vikings terrify everyone they meet. They are not afraid to die. They have been taught since childhood that if they fall in battle, they go to Valhalla and sit with Odin and Thor and every warrior who came before them. You cannot scare men like that. With Ethelwulf as their hostage, Ragnar's men are invited to Ele's hall for a feast. Ragnar walks out without answering because he wants time to think. Then he decides he wants to see how an English king actually lives, and he accepts. Ele receives them warmly and puts on a lavish feast. Then he gets to business and asks what it will take for the Vikings to release Ethelwulf and leave. Ragnar names his price, 2,000 pounds of gold and silver, nearly a ton of it. Ele's men reach for their weapons at the sheer insult of it. Ele agrees. He just asks for a few days to gather it all, and he adds one more condition. One of Ragnar's men must be baptized as a Christian, So their two peoples are no longer enemies. The Vikings laugh at the idea. Then Rollo stands up and says he will do it. Back in Kattegat, Athelstan brings Siggy to Lagertha. Bjorn does not trust her at all, but Lagertha hears her out. Siggy has lost her husband, her daughter's future, and her position, and she offers herself as a servant. Lagertha is uncomfortable with the idea of the former earl's wife scrubbing her floors, but Athelstan tells her there is no shame in service. Lagertha accepts and promises to treat Siggy and her daughter well. In England, the baptism goes ahead. Rollo stands in the water and lets an English priest pour it over him, while Ragnar watches, completely baffled by the whole thing.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Ella then tells the Vikings to wait at their ships until the payment is ready. A few days later, Floki starts running his mouth and accuses Rollo of betraying their gods for a bath. Rollo goes for him, and it nearly turns into a brawl. Then the English arrive with chests of treasure, and everyone celebrates, until they open the chests. They are empty, and Ella's army is already marching to wipe them out. What follows is a slaughter. Ragnar's men hold and fight back with everything they have. In the middle of it, Ragnar walks over to Ethelwulf, tells him exactly how disappointed he is, and kills him. That is the answer to the empty chest, and it is a message to Ella about what happens next time. Meanwhile, back home, Lagertha goes into labor, and the birth goes badly. The Vikings win the battle, take their plunder, and sail home. Ella is left humiliated, a king who lost his army and his brother and his dignity in a single day. He swears in the name of his god that he will never stop hunting these men. But when Ragnar gets home, the celebration dies. The son he had been waiting for was stillborn. Ragnar is devastated, and he cannot understand it. He asks Athelstan what he did wrong, and why the gods would take the child he wanted most. To get an answer, Ragnar decides to travel to Uppsala, the holiest place in their world, and he takes his people and Athelstan with him. Uppsala is where the gods are said to live. While they wait for the great ritual, everyone drinks, eats, and beds whoever they want, because sharing partners is completely normal here. Athelstan, who was a celibate monk a year ago, is now staying up until dawn and starting to enjoy it. His old faith is unraveling fast. Ragnar takes Athelstan to meet King Horik, the most powerful ruler in the region. Horik has heard of Ragnar and welcomes him, and Ragnar immediately pitches his idea. He wants Horik's men and ships to raid the west with him. Athelstan explains what England is actually like, and that seals it. Horik agrees. Somewhere else in Uppsala, Siggy goes to work on Rollo. She points out that Ragnar is in a private meeting with King Horik, talking about the West, and Rollo was not just left out of it. He was not even told it was happening. Some brother. Rollo hears her, and something in him turns. Horik then asks Ragnar for a favor. There is a man threatening his territory, and Horik wants Ragnar to go as his envoy and settle it. If Ragnar can fix it, Horik will owe him permanently. Ragnar figures it is a simple job. Meanwhile, one of the priests at Uppsala pulls Athelstan aside and questions him about his beliefs, and then tells him something horrifying. Athelstan was brought here to be the human sacrifice, but there is a problem. The sacrifice has to truly believe in the gods, and under questioning, Athelstan cannot hide that he still holds on to his own god. So the priests reject him and announce that someone must volunteer to take his place, or the entire ritual is worthless. One of Ragnar's own men, Leif, steps forward and offers himself. He does it willingly and with total sincerity, honored to die for his people, and the ritual is carried out immediately. Athelstan watches, alive, and completely shattered by what he has just seen. Ragnar then takes Bjorn and his men to the hall of Jarl Borg to settle Horik's land dispute. Borg is delighted to host a man as famous as Ragnar, and they feast together before getting down to it. Ragnar asks Borg to simply name a price for the land. Borg refuses. The land is huge, it is full of valuable minerals, and he says it is priceless. If Horik wants a price, then the price is Horik's head. That is enough for Ragnar, and he stands up to leave and start a war. But Borg stops him and offers another route. Send a man to bring the offer to Horik and see what he says. While they wait, Borg offers to show Ragnar something worth seeing. The great ash tree Yggdrasil, the tree the Vikings believe holds up the sky. There is one catch. One of Ragnar's men has to stay behind as a hostage. Ragnar picks Rollo, which lands harder than he realizes. Back in Kattegat, Lagertha visits the seer because she feels her husband is in danger. The seer confirms that a grim prophecy hangs over Ragnar, but refuses to say what it is, which of course terrifies her even more. At Borg's hall, Borg starts talking to Rollo. He tells him about his own brother, and how his brother took everything from him, and he watches Rollo's face while he says it. He is planting a seed, and he knows exactly what he is doing. On the road to the tree, Ragnar's men make camp, and two of them go down to the river, where they accidentally walk in on a woman bathing. They try to defuse it and explain that they are traveling with Ragnar Lothbrok to see the ash tree. The woman, whose name is Aslaug, knows exactly who Ragnar is. She tells them the matter can be settled, but Ragnar has to come and apologize to her in person. Ragnar is intrigued enough to invite her to the camp. Aslaug arrives, and she is beautiful, sharp, and completely unintimidated by him. Ragnar is hooked almost instantly, and he invites her to travel with them. She accepts. Together they reach Yggdrasil, an enormous ash tree that dwarfs everything around it. But back home, something is wrong. Siggy turns pale and collapses, and she is not the only one. A sickness sweeps through the settlement and starts killing people. Gyda and Athelstan both fall ill. Ragnar, meanwhile, is getting closer and closer to Aslaug, and Bjorn is disgusted because his mother is being betrayed right in front of him. Floki reaches Horik and delivers Borg's answer, and Horik is unmoved. He wants the land, and he expects Ragnar to handle it. Floki has nothing to say to that. Bjorn finally confronts his father directly and calls him out for sleeping with another woman while Lagertha is at home. Ragnar has no good answer. In Kattegat, Lagertha is drowning in guilt as more of her people die. She gathers her guards and performs a ritual, hoping to turn things around. It does not work. Athelstan wakes up and finds Gyda dead. Lagertha's daughter is gone, and Ragnar is not there. Word arrives from Floki, and Ragnar prepares to return to Jarl Borg's hall. Before he leaves, Aslaug comes to him with news of her own. She is pregnant with his child. Ragnar cannot say a single word. At Borg's hall, Floki reports that Horik refuses to negotiate and demands the land outright. Jarl Borg refuses just as firmly, and then he gives Ragnar a choice. Stay loyal to King Horik, or stay here and stand with Borg. Floki keeps eating, but he understands. A war is coming. That night, Ragnar is buried under everything at once. A stillborn son, a dead daughter he does not know about yet, a pregnant mistress, a war he did not want. He slips away to see Aslaug just to breathe for a moment. And while he is out, Jarl Borg goes to Rollo and makes his offer. He tells Rollo he knows what he is, a man who is hungry, who is strong, and who has spent his whole life standing in his brother's shadow while everyone else took the credit. Borg offers him a partnership, two men building a new kingdom together as equals. Rollo has been overlooked, passed over, tortured, and used, and this time he does not walk away. He agrees. And standing just outside the door, Ragnar hears every word of it. His own brother has just chosen the other side, and that is where season 1 of Vikings ends. So the moral of the story is if your little road trip involves angry kings, betrayals, snakes, sacrifices, and cheating on your wife, maybe just stay home and start a fishing business instead.